Okay, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This morning, I'm really thrilled to have with me as my guest Caine Moss, who's a partner at Goodwin. Caine, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Richard. I'm excited to talk to you. Let's dig in.
So, Caine, I've heard your name since I was associate at Venture Law Group. So I feel like it's been about 20 something years to get you on my program,
Been
but
a while.
here we are today.
Yeah.
Let me just start by asking you why you went to law school in the first place.
To be honest, I don't have like the greatest answer in the world. My wife, who was then my girlfriend, Maha Ibrahim, she um, got her P was admitted to the graduate school in economics at MIT, a year ahead of me at Stanford. We both went to Stanford together.
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, wasn't sure, applied to some schools and got into Harvard Law School. And I was like, hey, let's spend a few more years together out in Boston. Law school, though, was something that I was interested in because more on I love some of the theoretical issues,
Mm.
around the law and some of the sort of the thornier questions, legal philosophy and stuff like that was intriguing to me. And as an
Mm.
undergrad, and I took some legal theory courses.
Mm.
So I just, that was kind of the stuff that I was into back in those days, and figured I could continue to think about those things as a propeller head in law school, and then figure out what I wanted to do later.
Well, did you know what kind of lawyer you were going to be? I mean, did you know you were going to be a transactional lawyer? Did you consider litigation? How did you figure that out?
I didn't really know at that time. I knew I liked some of the theoretical issues, and then what happened was I went uh, to to spend a summer as a summer associate at Wilson Sonsini, because I knew I wanted to come back to California after having spent 4 years in Palo Alto. And back then it was, in the early 90s, there was, this burgeoning tech boom.
Of course.
And so I thought that was interesting. And then I went to Wilson Sonsini and started doing transactional work and realized that that was really interesting to me because you could actually, at that time, solve business problems and not be in sort of an adversarial
Hmm.
relationship.
Mm.
And I liked creating solutions for clients and figured that out early on. And also, I've always been a pretty good writer. And
Mm.
so, the drafting aspect as a young associate, I kind of felt like I had a competitive advantage
Mm.
because I could draft documents pretty well. And so the combination of being like a solutions provider early on
Mm.
and leveraging my strength as a writer and a drafter of documents was interesting to me. And so once I spent a summer at Wilson Sonsini, I realized I definitely wanted to be a corporate lawyer.
Oh, interesting. Did you even try litigation? Did you do that at all, even as a summer associate or anything?
No, no, I didn't. And even when I was in law school, you had basically two kind of professional tracks. You could do like a litigation workshop or a negotiation workshop.
Yeah.
Chose the negotiation workshop.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
didn't love the idea of being, a litigator at that time, and it didn't really fit my personality.
Yeah.
And so it was never something that I wanted to really pursue.
Interesting. So after you had this long tenure at Wilson, it looks like you kind of made some kind of leap and joined Goodwin very early. I think I don't think they had much in the way of technology or startup practice. Tell me why you would do that, because that seems like kind of a risky thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Goodwin had a really significant technology practice. They had acquired. You're going to go. You'll go back with me because of your VLG days. But there was a firm in Boston called Testa Hurwitz,
Oh, of course.
which
Yeah.
was the kind of the VLG equivalent on the East Coast.
Right.
That firm had imploded, and Goodwin basically acquired it.
Mm.
And so they were pretty much of a player on the East Coast in terms of tech platforms, but really didn't have a presence on the West Coast. And they really wanted to build it out.
Mm.
And so I had been at Wilson Sonsini for about 12 years. and really had a great experience there. Had made partner, was doing early stage stuff. But I had an opportunity to start the West Coast technology practice at Goodwin, and to do it with two other folks in the ecosystem that I had liked and respected and worked opposite for years. And they were Anthony McCusker, who now runs Goodwin, and Craig Schmitz, who runs our technology practice here. And so we had started talking about maybe starting to do something together to build something. And, we ultimately settled on building it on a platform like Goodwin.
Interesting.
And, my thought at the time was, Wilson was kind of at that point the true life cycle practice firm, taking companies from very early on and developing them. And, as their legal services became more sophisticated, being able to represent them throughout the life cycle. At that point in time, I had felt like Wilson had more of an emphasis, taking their eye off the ball of sort of the early stage. And, this was post recession 08, 09, and really was more focused on late stage opportunities, higher margin work, taking, picking off public companies and doing M&A, which was all great. But at that point in time, I was a young partner, had established myself in the venture practice, was doing a lot of representation of venture firms. My wife was a VC, so I was kind of in that market. And so kind of felt like Wilson had gotten away from that early stage practice. Conversely, Anthony and Craig, who were at Gunderson, had that practice nailed, but were struggling to keep companies as they grew and scaled. And so what we thought we could do was build like a life cycle practice 2.0 together at Goodwin, and build it where we were as strong at the early stage as we were at the late stage, the way we felt Wilson Sonsini had built its practice, and the way we felt Gunderson was trying to sort of move towards, but do it on a platform like Goodwin, where they knew how to represent early stage companies, but gave us free rein to build a true, 2.0 life cycle practice here on the West Coast. And that's kind of what we started to do. And
interesting. Now, I'm sure hindsight is 2020 and obviously was super successful, but was it difficult at the early stages? Tell me some of the challenges you had in doing this relatively new at the time.
It was really difficult because, and it's part of the nature of a life cycle practice. I think, there are a lot of firms that come to Silicon Valley and try to build, a life cycle practice, and they struggle because it's really hard to be really good at the early stage and be dialed into the venture community and get that work and have that work turn into referrals to the best and the brightest young entrepreneurs and early stage companies, and at the same time be elite in equity capital markets, or in tech M&A, or in growth stage venture or PE. We felt like we had some competitive advantages at Goodwin because Goodwin also at that time was elite in the private equity space. So we knew we were really good at the early stage. We knew we could leverage the private equity expertise that we had for some of the growth stage and later stage financings. And Goodwin also had some great resources in equity capital markets and in M&A that we felt like we could leverage. We didn't really have all that on the West Coast. So it was very difficult, for us to, I would say, a little bit of smoke and mirrors at the, when we started out. And then, but at the same time, we knew what we needed to build out here on the West Coast. And we felt like we knew where the bodies were buried, in the sense that, we knew who were great practitioners that we wanted to go get. So for example, we pulled in, Larry Chu,
Mm,
who, runs our tech M&A practice. And we pulled him in early because we knew we needed that level of expertise. And then over time, we build out equity capital markets. Now we have Brad Weber, who had been at Goodwin, and we brought in some other folks. And so, um,
mm.
and then, as things evolved, we knew that we needed to keep those companies once they went public. So we built out our public company advisory practice and really felt that we knew where we needed to build, and it just took time to build it out, getting the right ingredients and the right pieces to the extent that we have now, where I feel like we do have an elite equity, all whether it's equity capital markets, public company, M&A, early stage, we have that life cycle expertise that we can bring to bear for
Yeah,
our
interesting.
clients at various stages.
Do you think the growth was, pretty much like gradually just increasing, or were there any like key inflection points along the way? Like, like startups sometimes have like a key inflection point that really turns it around. What would you say?
I think there were some key inflection points. I think getting Larry was huge because at that time, back in the day, when I was coming up at Wilson Sonsini, corporate lawyers did everything.
Mm,
We took companies public. I remember doing a ton of IPOs at Wilson Sonsini and getting, figuring out how to do that and getting my chops. And we did all the M&A. And, as I became partner, the market shifted and boards started looking at, hey, we want some expertise in the M&A phase. And, now it's, everyone wants the equity capital markets specialty, et cetera. So getting Larry Chu was huge as far as our ability to deliver expertise when it comes to tech M&A, and having him build out that practice. And we brought in Rick Klein early as well to help us to build out the equity capital markets practice, and he's now at Latham and continuing to build over there. But he was important for us at an early stage to really build out some of the building blocks of our equity capital markets practice. We also brought Rezwan Pavri in at a critical phase, and he was instrumental as well. So he's no longer, he went back to Wilson Sonsini
mm.
and is doing phenomenal there. But we took some lessons from those guys, and they were great at what they did, and we built on that to build out our capital markets practice through some key learnings that we gained from them. And so we feel like we have it now with the folks that we have, but along the way we've built some great team members, and so I think just some of those were the key ingredients as
Yeah,
we.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's obviously been successful. And now I'm sure it looks like it was maybe obviously it was a good decision. It may have looked easy, but when you reflect on it, are you surprised you made the leap back then? Or do you think that, that was kind of your nature to maybe take some risks and do something entrepreneurial?
I would say that I am a little bit surprised that I did, because when I left Wilson, people thought I was nuts.
Yeah.
Here I was, on the preeminent platform. I had a successful practice. It was growing. Had a great following within the firm, and outside of it. Folks wanted me to help really build back the venture practice there. And I don't know whether it was that I just felt like I needed change, or what it was. I just, what I did feel like was that I had this very deep sense that I really trusted Anthony and Craig. We spent a lot of time together before we all decided that we were going to make the move, really feeling each other out and figuring out if we could work together. And over maybe a 6 to 9 month process, I came to believe that that us as a team, we could do some damage in the market. Like I felt like we were all like-minded, we were all entrepreneurial, And what we felt like, and we all said this, is that we weren't 100% sure that Goodwin was going to be the platform that we thought it could be, but we knew that together we could build something. And so worst case scenario, if it didn't work at Goodwin, we were going to find a platform that we could do it on and really develop the type of practice that we felt like we wanted to build collectively.
Yeah.
It just turned out that Goodwin was an ideal platform for us
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they understood what we were trying to build. They gave us the resources that we need when we needed them, particularly early on when we didn't have the pieces of a life cycle practice out here out west that we needed. But at the same time, they gave us what we needed, and then they got out of our way
Yeah.
so that we could build it the way we felt like we needed to out here.
Yeah. Interesting.
It was a
Well,
great platform.
well, now that you've built this incredibly successful thing, obviously Anthony's the chair of the firm. Have you ever thought that you might want to try something else, like be a general counsel or maybe even be a venture capitalist? Have you ever thought about maybe something like that for your future?
Yeah, I have over the years and have had some interesting opportunities come my way to do both of those things.
Hmm.
Um, but I always felt like uh, if I'm going to be a lawyer, I would rather do it uh, at a law firm where essentially I'm a revenue center.
Hmm.
You know, look, I love the idea of being a venture capitalist too, and have thought about doing that. But you know, my wife has been a VC for 20 something years, and so I'm not under any illusions over, you know, what that life is like as well. And the thing that's tricky about being a VC, it can be great, and you know, there's a lot of intriguing aspects to that profession, but there's a lot of stuff that's just not in your control. Like you could do everything right, make all the right decisions, and for whatever reason, you know, you don't have that big exit. And so the lack of control in that business, and then also the fact that like if I went to a venture firm, at the end of the day, I'd be starting from scratch, you know, in
Yeah.
a new fund, you know, and it, like, look, you have to give yourself 10 years to make real money in venture. Like that has to be how you think about things. And you know, I don't know if I want to start that at 53.
Well, Caine, it's been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate your taking the time. Like I said, I've heard your name for so long, so it was a real thrill and pleasure to finally be able to speak with you, and thank you for taking this time.
Hey, anytime. It was great to talk to you.
This is Richard Hsu and Caine Moss. Thanks.